In this episode of Unpacked,
I don't know how it feels to be a girl. I have no idea how it feels to be a boy.
why was that your choice of pronouns?
Being intersex, right, is not really a gender identity. It's just how someone is born.
Being an intersex, me being an intersex is my normality and it's my reality.
Intersex, a term that many have heard, might have even mentioned, but many don't actually know or understand. Our guest today, Unpack. Dimakatso Sedibi was born in Soweto 37 years ago and was raised by their mother and father in Vosloorus. Crystal Hendricks is a community builder and activist who is born and raised in Cape Town and is the chairperson of an NGO. Though these two individuals are both from different walks of life, they share a similar trait. And after years of battling medical and societal definitions of who they are here to tell their stories. This is part one of the conversation. Let's unpack. Dimakatso, welcome to Unpack. Thank you so much for joining us.
It is a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And joining us via video con, we have Crystal. Crystal, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Crystal. So let's quickly start, because this is such a sensitive subject, of the broader community. I think intersex is one of the groups that are not spoken about enough. And South Africans, and probably even the world, have Caster Semenya as a person that can be referenced. But at the same time, Caster doesn't represent everybody's story because there's so many different things. So let me start with you. What is, how would you explain what intersex is?
My name is Dimakatso Sedibi. I'm known as Garfield. I am a proud intersex person. Intersex is the I from the acronym, LGBTQIA+. So I'm an intersex because I'm born with ambiguous genitalia. I'm born from Baragwanath Hospital, now called Chris Hani Hospital. So born with both genitalia, which is a penis and a vagina. Went through surgeries in terms of wanting to normalize me.
So before we get to the story, what are your pronouns, so that I can just establish between, I was saying to the both of you off camera that for me, I was introduced to the concept of pronouns when it was only to do with transgender issues. And then when, prior to this discussion, and I was getting my research done, I realized, oh my gosh, nobody ever actually, I've never heard that conversation of pronouns when it comes to intersex. Because Caster being the example is that we consider Caster as female. We understand the challenges that she's facing because of how she was born. But we also know that Caster is in a relationship with a woman. But there are three different issues that are being dealt with. Is the genitalia one is born with, how you identify in terms of your gender, and how you identify in terms of your sexuality. So there are issues that are at play, which is how you identify in terms of the genitalia you were born with that makes you intersex, how you identify with your gender, and how you identify with your sexuality. So for this conversation, what are your pronouns?
I go by they or them.
They or them. Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever you are referred to, it's they or them.
They or them.
And for yourself, Crystal?
Hi, my pronouns are she and her.
Okay, so now that we know and understand the pronouns, why is, and maybe this is an incorrect way of asking, I'm trying to be as sensitive as possible about it. Why was that your choice of pronouns?
Okay, well, there's more than 30 types of intersex people. We differ. Hence, you've just already heard Crystal saying she prefers being pronounced by she or he, me, they, or them.
She
or her, I mean to say. It's because of our anatomy, one, that makes a huge difference, because I'm born with ambiguous genitalia. So, which makes it both genital. I'm born with a penis and a vagina. So, which I'm not a girl, I'm not a boy. I'm not a female, I'm not a male. I am an intersex person. That is my gender. My gender is an intersex person.
And that's why you choose they or them.
That's why I choose they or them.
And in the case of yourself, Crystal?
Yeah, I just want to touch on that. So, what intersex basically means, right? It's people that are born with natural sexual variations that could include genitalia, chromosomes, genetics, or many other things, right? So, no two intersex people are the same. We're all very different from each other. I think being intersex, right, is not really a gender identity. It's just how someone is born. However, some intersex people basically just took control of the word intersex and they identify just as being intersex and will either identify as either male, female, or non-binary. And therefore people choose certain pronouns. So for myself personally, I do identify as an intersex woman. And therefore my pronouns are she and her.
And I think you've explained it well. We need to separate the intersex issue from the male-female issue, if I understand you correct.
Yes, definitely. Because what happens is that people that are born intersex do not fit the typical binary notions of male and female. Just for a quick example is that if you look at my how I was born, I was described as a girl or female. However, genetically, my chromosome is the XY chromosome, and that would typically be a male chromosome. However, I identify as a woman, which means that intersex people are basically, we do not fit the binaries of what a female should be like and what a male should be like. And
I think what makes it even more challenging for the average or layman to understand is the different variations. So already we're going to say up top at the beginning of this conversation that no two intersex people are the same. So you can't hear one story and then paint the rest of the group or the community as that.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you. And then it's also very sad with the whole Caster Semenya story is because Caster actually never came out as intersex. Caster has actually never even came out publicly as a lesbian.
Yes.
However, Caster's medical records obviously was not private, and people made assumptions from her medical records that she is intersex because she has a higher level of testosterone. And this could be one of the intersex variations. However, we still can't label her as intersex because Caster herself has not come out and said, hey, world, I am intersex.
And I think that's why I've been so careful to try and say Caster is in a relationship with a woman, married to a woman. We cannot assume that means she is lesbian. She hasn't told us. Okay. So let's start, Dimakatso, with your personal story. You were saying that you were born in Soweto. And at the time, what was it that the doctors told your parents?
I think because I was born with both. The conversation between my parents and the doctors was, what were you expecting? Were you expecting a boy or a girl? But because my parents wanted a girl, so the doctors promised to give a girl out of my anatomy. So operations were done without my permission.
So just, I just want to get into the details of what have they relayed to you about what that experience was like? Because, whenever a family or a couple are expecting, it's all exciting. Is it a girl or a boy? There's never, is it a girl or a boy or intersex?
Or intersex,
Ever. So now it was neither girl nor boy. It was now intersex. So when the doctor, took you out, what were your parents told? Were they told your child is intersex, or were they told what would you like the child to be?
I believe they were told your child is different.
Yes.
One. And secondly, what were your expectations? And I believe that's where it started. Because first of all, being born intersex, there's nothing wrong with you. The thing is that when you're born intersex, especially with ambiguous genitalia, it's already a medical condition. And there's nothing wrong with you being born with both or being born intersex. So the surgeries were not supposed to happen. I think it started with the question asking my parents, what were they expecting? So when they asked them, what were they expecting, that necessarily changes my life.
So they gave your parents the power to decide what should be the case. And my understanding from what has been put in the media, I think there was some movie that I watched, an American film, where a child was born with both genitalia. And it was only much later in their lives that they realized that their parents chose a sex for them. When, and I have to be careful again, because sex and gender are not the same thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Crystal?
No, you're very right.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So the parents chose a sex for the child, hoping that they're also choosing a gender. Only later, when the child said, I don't feel like this, did they later then find out, actually, you were born with both, and the doctor gave us a choice. So that has been the trend. So I'm not surprised that your parents were now given a choice.
They were not given a choice. And there's less information. There's less of information about intersex people, especially in the township, or should I say, in the Black community. There's really less. It was a matter of my parents taking whatever the doctors were telling them, and with the hope that a girl would come out of the anatomy. That's what my experience.
So your parents are at the hospital, and the doctors basically are giving them a choice. And what did the doctors say to them? What were you expecting? And they say, we promise now we're going to give you a girl. So what happened?
Besides promising, I mean, what we used to from a female and a male. So they asked my parents what were they expecting between a boy and a girl, but they wanted a girl. So not only they promised to give, it was a matter of obviously removing the penis and leaving the vagina. So that's what happened actually to me.
And did they understand what that meant at the time?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it was. I think it was just a matter of having a penis or a vagina. Which I think it's what my parents believed to give me an identity. I think that me having a penis, it would say Dimakatso kingwanyana, or having a vagina would say Dimakatso kimshimana. I think that's what my parents wanted out of this, for me to also live a normal life. But apparently there was nothing to fix. So doctors were actually fixing something that was not even broken.
Because even then, you were saying Black communities and townships back then. What is the word intersex? I mean, does it even have a name, Gastswana, Gazulu?
There should be. I think there is, but I only know of intersex. Before intersex, I've always known that a person like me is called a hermaphrodite, which I believe is an offensive word. I just only know that I'm an intersex person, not only because of my anatomy, but from the acronym, the I know it stands for intersex people,
So what was your upbringing like after, the procedure happened, which you obviously don't recall because you're a newborn? What was growing up like?
Good and bad, honestly. I would say good because of my family. My parents, I've got great, amazing, God-fearing parents. Though my mom is late, I'm still left with my hero, my dad, my champ. I think if they were not saved, I don't think I would have really made it up to this far. I don't think I would really want to believe that they never made a choice for me on how to live. They believe, even today, my dad still believes not only they made the right choice for me, but it was to protect me. And it's a matter of what's social boundary, what is normal, or what are we used to? Because they didn't want me to be a laughing stock, or they didn't want people, to call me names. So to avoid such things, they thought of, what the operation would actually be okay for Dimakatso.
Did you ever recall feeling not connected with the gender or the sex that you were assigned at birth?
I never connected with it. I can't remember. I don't know how it feels to be a girl. I have no idea how it feels to be a boy. But I know how it feels to be Dimakatso, who is an intersex. I'm born with both genitalia, and I don't want to be a boy. I don't want to be a girl. I'm okay being an intersex. You come across with God created Adam and Eve. There I am with both genitalia. So you can't come with religion when it comes to me. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So I've accepted and loved Dimakatso for who God created me to be.
Yeah. What was school like? Because again, there's a lot of activities. There's a lot of things at different ages where they like to separate boys from girls. Did you feel not connected in those situations?
My health is affected today because of the challenges I faced at school, especially with the toilets. It's girls' toilets and boys' toilets. There's no toilets for Dimakatso. You understand?
But did you know that at the time?
No, but I knew with my anatomy, I'm different. I can see from there's something, I'm totally different. I've got sisters, I've got brothers. I can see, besides thinking that I might be a homosexual person because, but I could still see that besides growing breasts, I'm totally still different from lesbian friends that I have. My lesbian friends, they go through periods, I don't. Some of my lesbian friends don't have beard, I grow beard, So there was just so many differences from my body, which I asked myself questions, I asked God questions, I asked my parents questions. So I couldn't blame anybody, but the only thing I had to do is just to love Dimakatso and accept Dimakatso the way God created me and live.
How did your parents explain, when you asked them as a child, but I don't look like my sisters or I don't look like my brothers? What was their explanation to you?
There's this few words that my parents used to use, special. You are special, you are different. Growing up, you realize those words actually put you in a box of lonely. You are alone. Though I know they were saying that because I am special to them, but being different at home, you can see, I've got two sisters after me. I'm the firstborn, by the way. And even the lastborn is now starting to go through her periods. And there I am like, God, what's going on here? And I can't be angry at anybody. I can't be angry at my parents that my body's like this. I can't be even angry at the doctors or the government or the world. I just have to live my life. God blessed me with this life. It's a gift.
But did your parents actually, because I'm just thinking about it, did they tell you what had actually happened, or did you just see a scar and you how did they navigate that? Did they say to you straight from the beginning, actually you were born with both genitalia? What happened?
Yeah, no, they didn't tell me immediately. I suffered for 21 years with questions.
What explained the scar?
Those are the kind of questions I was asking my mom, like, why am I always going to the gynae? Why do I have these scars? What's going on? Why am I normal? The answers would be, you're different, you're special. But until I got to 21, that's when my parents set me down, Dimakatso. Not only we were born different, this is what had happened. You were born with both genitalia. And which I'm very grateful for, they set me down at that age. And I asked, though, why only now? Because for 21 years, I believed that I'm a lesbian because, one, I have breasts, And as much as I'm not going through periods, but for the fact that I have breasts, that's what made me feel like, well. And my ID is saying female, So that made me believe that, not that I'm a female, I'm a different kind of girl.
Were you thinking that you're lesbian because you found yourself attracted to women?
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
Yes.
I got you.
Yes.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you were still saying they set you down at 21, and what was it that they said?
To be honest with you, there was so much anger towards my parents because, I've went through difficulties. Church, I'm from a Christian family, so I've never seen my parents defending me, when they sing LGBTQI, it's demonic, it's whatnot, and hey, you guys, you were there from birth. Not that they were supposed to fight for me in that way, but I wish they would have voiced some few things, to highlight me, Dimakatso. This is what it is about you. But I love the love and support they gave me, even still, till 21. They never made me feel like if you are lesbian or believing that you are lesbian, they never made me feel in anyhow or demonic, if I can put it that way. So they've always been supportive. And when they told me at that age of 21, they said they believed that I'd be ready and be able to take it. And honestly, yes, I was. But I was angry for the fact that I had so many questions.
Like what?
Why am I not going through periods? Why, whatever it is, it doesn't look like my sisters. Why don't I have a vagina canal? Why am I growing beard? Such questions. And I believe they were not able to answer them also as parents because they didn't ask for this, and Lynn, the way my body is, I didn't ask for it, but it only took me for me to appreciate and accept myself, And now I believe my work is now not to make people accept, but to make people understand that people like Dimakatso, people like Crystal, we do exist, and we live life to the fullest, and we as normal. Me being an intersex is my normality, and it's my reality.
And it's all that you know,
yes,
to be honest.
Yes, that's all that I know. And if anyone introduced anything of whether my ID would say female, I can never be female. I am not one. Even if somebody, because I'm dating a female, would expect, that means maybe the hormones that are dominant in you are of a guy. I'm not a guy. I don't want to even be a guy.
You actually raised something important because we've spoken more about genitalia than we have about hormones.
Yes.
So I'm not sure how that plays out in your body because, I was speaking to my team.
Yes.
And much as we say vagina, penis, that doesn't speak to the reproductive organs on the inside.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Yeah.
So the vagina is almost just the casing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't speak to cervix, ovaries.
Ovaries, yes.
Everything inside that usually is inside of a woman. Yeah. And with regards to the penis, there's still the testes and possible scrotum. And is the body producing sperm? So are you aware at this stage of your hormones and what hormones your body does produce and what your internal reproductive organs are?
What I know is that besides having ambiguous genitalia is that I have testes, I've had a vagina and a penis, and they were all functional. But because of what my parents wanted, that's where the mess started.
I understand.
Hence, even today, my health is complicated. I still pee blood because of that, It's because of the surgeries. Surgeries are not supposed to be done. I think they're supposed to really leave a child to grow up and they make their own choices. And because you might be surprised that there are so many intersex people, especially born with ambiguous genitalia, that surgeries were done to them. If you would ask them would you have chose to be a girl or a boy, they'll be like, I would have chose to be me still. And I'm one of those people. I don't.
You wish they just left it as it was.
You know what? Listen.
Yeah.
I would have been okay with my penis. But not that I need it right now. But I would have been okay with it. I don't think he would have created me that way to complicate my life. He gave me that life to live it. And I wouldn't want it to change it in anyhow. But it's done. It's okay. Yeah.
Crystal, I'm going to come to you now and just also chat to us about, what the experience was for your parents from their perspective, and then we will pick up on just the details of your specific intersex story.
Yeah, so for myself, I also have a sister that's my elder sister that is intersex as well.
Oh.
Yeah, so my mom already went through an experience with her when they discovered that she was obviously not at the time intersex because no one had the word intersex, but we can just say she was born differently, to other girls. And when they discovered her story, and then also when I turned about 15, 16, I also discovered that I was a bit different to other girls as well.
Can we actually just, and I think it's important for us to explain, because we already know that intersex has so many variations. Somebody might be wondering, how come Dimakatso explains something that happened at birth, but in the case of you only realized when you were 16? Why is that the case?
So in my case, my experience was very different to Dimakatso. So I was born with typical female genitalia. And why I call it typical? Because I think we do know now that genitalia, doesn't define gender, because there is transgender people as well. So obviously the doctor said you have a girl, and we went home. I think at the age of about 14, 15, I never went through puberty. So I obviously never got my menstruation or period. And that left a bit of questions as to why I didn't receive a period. After that, obviously, went to the doctor, which referred me to the hospital. At the hospital, they did a lot of testing. So they did a lot of sonars, they did a lot of scans. And it was discovered that I was born without a uterus, fallopian tubes, or cervix, or no internal female genitalia. Right. However, as per what the doctors labeled at that time is that I do have two ovaries that is working on their own. And as per this doctor's knowledge, it was best to have those ovaries removed because they could become cancerous at a later stage in life. So medically speaking, we do want to apologize intersex issues, but there is a name for all these variations, right? So my variation is called complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, which means my body is insensitive to testosterone and then turns it into estrogen. So when I had the surgery at about 16, I was then placed on hormone replacement therapy of estrogen, which I obviously need to take for the rest of my life.
Okay, and I think you explained it quite well. So basically what you're saying is that when you were born, it was not physically visibly obvious that you do not have all the female organs, because it was just judged on genitalia, but not on internal organs.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you're born, no one, does a scan or a sonar to see what's happening inside of a baby. Everybody just judged based on the, on the outside of what they can see, based on society's norms of what a boy should look like and what a girl should look like. And, they tie everybody in these two little boxes and then they just choose a box for you. I was obviously assigned female at birth about, what they could see. And then later on, after I did genetic testing, I found that I do have a XY chromosome, which normally females would have a XX chromosome.
So in your upbringing, because you only found out in your teenage years, did you always feel connected to being a girl?
Yeah, I think I always felt connected to being a girl. I was raised a girl. I was raised with 4 other sisters as well. My mother has all girls. So we grew up in a household full of girls. And I always felt connected with being a girl. I think what happens with even in the intersex community and the transgender community, because society has set out certain standards of what a woman should look like and what a woman should be like. So a woman should have, ovaries, a uterus, fallopian tubes, all those things, and you need to produce children. And, and when we look at the intersex community, is that many intersex women are obviously unable to conceive because they do not have the internal anatomy or genitalia of a female. And sometimes as an intersex woman, you have to really validate yourself as being a woman because of society standards. They pathologize you so much and they would basically isolate you from being a woman because you're not a typical woman and you don't conform to these standards of what a woman should be like.
And do you find that your upbringing was a fairly, in inverted commas, normal girl-child upbringing?
Yeah, I would say it was very normal. Up until the point where obviously I discovered that, I'm not developing like my friends or like my cousins, and things are, just a bit slower for me. And that's what started making me feel a bit different. However, that didn't change, though, how I felt about myself as a woman or female.
What was your understanding then? Because as you mentioned, you have a sister who is intersex. What was your understanding of that at the time?
You see, at the time, we didn't really know much, right? No one was educated about any of these things. All I knew at that time is that I could never have children and I don't have a uterus and all of those things. Like, that's the only thing that I knew. The doctor never explained the term intersex or anything to myself or my parents at the time. I think for me, it was only at the later stage when I turned about 22, 23, where I could go for testing myself. Because obviously now I was on the internet, I was on Google, and I was Googling symptoms, or, like I'm born like this. And I found Facebook groups online of people all over the world that is born, like there's a Facebook group called Androgen Insensitivity Syndrome. And I joined that group. And that's when I went to endocrinologist and I went for genetic testing. And then I only discovered that I was born intersex.
So in terms of your sister being intersex, what was your understanding of her situation?
So myself and my sister, we both obviously knew that we were different. But it was only up until when I did the genetic testing and I found more people like myself online, where I discovered that I was intersex. And when I discovered, I basically introduced the term to her and we started speaking about it a bit more. We actually only started speaking about it in like 2017 when I joined an organization called Intersex South Africa. And I think that's when I spoke to my sister and we got a bit involved in the intersex community.
I'd like to find out, is your sister a she because that was what she chose or that was what she was assigned at birth?
Yeah. So we both are born, obviously, with the exact same intersex variation. So we both only discovered when we were much later in life. Like a lot of intersex people, some of them even discover in their 20s, 30s that they are intersex because there's no physical traits of, that you can see that this person is intersex. And she identifies as a woman as well.
Okay. And I think that it helps to get that as an understanding that she does identify as that, but also she was raised as a girl.
Yes, definitely. She was raised as a girl.
So when now you came back and you said, hey, this is what I discovered about myself, what do you think? How did your parents receive the information?
I would say it's really something that we don't talk about. I think intersex is something that, as households that we don't really talk about. And this is something I've discovered with a lot of intersex people as well. I think as a family, we never actually really sat down and, spoke about this. Up until obviously we did a recent TV interview as well. But I feel like it's just something that, we are born intersex. We still, my mother's little girls and we just carry on with life as as normal as possible. It's almost like like a lot of people with regards to coming out is that we do not ask normal heteronormative straight people to come out and say, hey, I'm straight. We don't ask someone that have PCOS to come out and say, hey, I'm struggling to conceive because I have PCOS. Like, we don't ask people to come out, for any other different things in life. So with being intersex, we're trying to treat it, as normal as possible, to make sure that people realize that there's nothing wrong with intersex people. It's a natural variation. It's just the way how some people are born. Intersex people make up more than 3% of the population, and that is cases that are documented. We know, coming from Africa, there's a lot of undocumented births and a lot of undocumented stories. So we might not even have the right, figures when it comes to intersex people. However, there's many intersex people that are just living normal lives. They're just trying to live as normal as possible. And like Garfield Dimakatso said, is that, people keeps trying to fix intersex people or giving them a reason to come out, but what that causes actually puts intersex people in a lot of secrecy and isolation. When I was intersex and I discovered I couldn't have children, I felt like people made that to be the worst thing possible. Oh, are you going to have a fulfilled life? How is your life going to be? You can't have children. And they made it this very sad situation. And I feel like that had a big impact on me as well. And then I started feeling very inadequate as well. It's like, oh, I'm a woman, but I can't have children. So what does that really make me? And, and that forces people into a lot of isolation. But I think it's a moment when you you find that pride within yourself to know that, hey, I'm intersex, I'm born different, but I'm a woman, and nothing takes away from that. And just live your life as normal as possible.
And I think you've explained it beautifully. I think the tricky thing, like what you say, is that so many people are not expected to come out for anything. Why is there an expectation on your particular community to come out? And I think it's tricky where we are right now, which is we're at a stage of now trying to raise awareness, share information. So there is a bit of a pressure. It's just great that there are people like yourself, Crystal, and people like you, Dimakatso, that are open to speaking about it to help other people. Somebody might be sitting at home not even knowing they're intersex, and this conversation helps. So I appreciate that. Next time on Unpacked.
Society wants you to fit, a certain binary notion of what a male and a female should look like.
Or you telling me that you being you is wrong.
The medical fraternity actually violates intersex people.
Then why do they even call it a private part? Because from word go, it was never private with me.
Unpacked with Relebogile Mabotja. New episodes weekdays at 5:30 p.m. on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Television edited broadcasts weekdays at 5 p.m. Open up to S3.